what makes a house a home? Is it the walls, the roof, or the furniture that fills it? These are questions that might seem simple on the surface, but when we dig a little deeper, we realize there's more to it. Consider this. You're standing in an empty house. Sure, it has all the structural necessities, but does it feel like a home? Probably not. Now imagine that same house filled with laughter, memories, shared meals, and love. Suddenly that house starts to feel like something more. You see, a home isn't just a physical space. It's not defined by the bricks and mortar that hold it together. It's the emotional connections we form within those walls that truly make it a home. It's the love we share, the sense of belonging we feel, and the memories we create that transform an ordinary house into a sanctuary. Is it not the memories we create, the love we share, and the sense of belonging we feel that truly make a house a home? Imagine, if you will, a young man who had everything he could ever need in his house until one fateful day. A day that started as any other, but soon took a devastating turn. The tranquility of his home was shattered by the roar of an uncontrollable fire. In what seemed like just a moment, his haven was reduced to a smoldering pile of ashes. He stood numb and disoriented, staring at the ruins of what was once his home. The fire had taken everything from him, his possessions, his memories, the walls that had provided him with a sense of security. But perhaps the hardest loss to bear was that of his beloved pet cat. The feline companion that had shared his life and his home was nowhere to be found. The young man's heart ached with a sorrow so profound it was almost physical. The longing for his lost pet was a constant pang, a reminder of the comfort and companionship he had lost. He missed the soft purr that would lull him to sleep, the gentle nudge of a furry head against his hand. He missed the warmth of his cat curled up on his lap, the joy in its eyes when he came home. In the midst of the rubble, the young man was gripped by a sense of despair. The home that had been his sanctuary was now just a charred skeleton, a stark reminder of the catastrophe that had befallen him. He felt a void within him, a gaping hole where his home and his heart used to be. The days that followed were a blur of grief and loss. He wandered through his days, the weight of his loss pressing down on him, suffocating him. The world around him seemed colorless, lifeless. He felt as if he was walking through a dream, a nightmare from which he could not wake up. In the face of such overwhelming loss, the young man was left with nothing but a pile of ashes and a heart filled with grief. His home was gone, his world turned upside down, but little did he know the darkest hour is just before the dawn. But even in his darkest hour, the young man was not alone. In the aftermath of the fire, as the dust settled and the young man was left with the ruins of what once was his home, something remarkable happened. The community, the people he shared his day-to-day life with, began to rally around him. It started with a few kind-hearted souls, those who had heard about his plight and felt moved to lend a hand. They brought him clothes, notebooks, the everyday necessities that we often take for granted until they're gone. The gymnasium turned into an impromptu donation center, a beacon of hope amidst the wreckage. And as word spread, this act of generosity grew. People he had never interacted with before, individuals who were once just faces in the crowd, now stood by his side. They were no longer mere acquaintances or strangers, they were friends. The young man who had once felt so alone was now surrounded by a community united by compassion. But it didn't stop there. The community didn't just provide him with material aid, they were there to support him emotionally as well. They shared his sorrow, offered him comfort, and reminded him that he was not alone in his struggle. This emotional support, this sense of shared humanity, was as crucial to his recovery as the physical donations. And so, the young man began to rebuild, not just his home, but his life. Brick by brick, day by day, with the support of his newfound friends, he was able to rise from the ashes. His life, which had once been defined by the four walls of his house, was now defined by the people who stood by him in his hour of need. The fire had taken much from the young man, but it had also given him something unexpected. It had shown him the kindness of strangers, the power of community, and the resilience of the human spirit. In the face of adversity, the young man found unexpected allies and friends, breathing life back into his existence. This was more than just a recovery. It was a reminder that a house is not a home. It's the people who fill it that truly matter. As weeks turned into a month, the young man discovered something extraordinary. The once familiar bricks and mortar of his house were now being reshaped, rebuilt, a phoenix rising from the ashes. The house was transforming just as he was. Two of his school friends were by his side, their presence a testament to the bonds that had been forged in the crucible of adversity. One day, into this scene of renewal, a woman appeared. Clasped in her hands was a small, furry creature. The young man's heart leapt as he recognized the familiar face. It was his cat, the very one he had thought he had lost forever in the fire. The woman had found the cat, recognized the phone number on its collar, and brought it back to him. In that moment, the young man felt a surge of gratitude. Gratitude for the woman who had returned his beloved pet, for the friends who stood by his side, for the community that had rallied around him. The ache in his heart began to ease, replaced by a warmth that spread through his entire being. His house was still a work in progress, much like his life, but the return of his cat, the love of his friends and community, these were the threads that began to weave back the fabric of his life. The physical structure of his house might have changed, but the spirit, the essence of it, was being reborn. And so, amidst the rubble and the rebuilding, the young man found a new sense of home. He realized that home was more than just four walls and a roof. It was a place of love, of memories, of connections. It was a place where he belonged, where he was loved, where he could love in return. In the end, the young man realized it wasn't the house, but the love, memories, and connections he shared with others that truly made it a home.